What's up guys, it's Celeste, and a few days ago Ashley Wylde made a video about values and talked about a method that she uses called value sorting to kind of narrow down and determine what her most important values are, and especially her core values, which would be like the few most important values. I thought this was a really cool idea, and so I wanted to make a video where I do this and then kind of share my findings with you as well as myself in the future, because I think it's a good idea to have kind of a record of this so that in the future, if I want to do this again, I can look back and sort of compare and contrast and see which values have changed and which have stayed the same. I kind of feel like most of my values are pretty, like there definitely are some that are very constant, but then there are others that I think have changed over time, which I think is true of most people. I'm going to link to her video in the description as well as above, so you can go check that out, and definitely go check out her channel if you're not already familiar with her, because she has a lot of really great content, including other kinds of like self-reflection and self-improvement kind of stuff like this. So the way this basically works is you start out with a list of values, and she linked to a list that she found of 50 something, I can't remember the exact number, values that a lot of people have reported as being important to them. And so I used the same list that she used, and basically what you do is you start out writing each one on a little piece of paper, and then you kind of spread them out. And the first thing you do is you divide them into 3 categories. The first one is the values that are like really important to you, and then the second one is ones that maybe you value those things but they're not like really like jumping out at you as the most important. And then the third group is things that you don't really value, or at least that aren't really priorities for you. That part was a little harder than I expected. I actually ended up with only 4 that I put in the not valued category, and I had 22 in the somewhat value category, and then I had 31 in the most important values, which you would think that it would be kind of the other way around, but we're getting there. For the next step, it depends a little bit on how large each of your categories is, but because my most important values was the biggest group, that's the only one that I went with. It's the same thing Ashley did. I think her biggest group maybe had 28 in it or something like that. But if you have fewer in that group, then you might need to start pulling from your middle group or whatever. But basically what you do at that point is you start ranking those. The way that Ashley did it was to take her top 10 most important and rank those, and then her next 10 most important and rank those, and so on. I tried to do it that way, and I really just had a hard time even picking out like which ones were the top 10 and which ones were like the middle 10, and it was just really hard. So what I ended up doing was there were a few that like really jumped out at me that I knew were going to be toward the top. So I went ahead and put those on there, and then the rest of them I just kind of tried not to think too hard about it and kind of just like went with my gut and just like put them in order. So my ranking order is kind of loose. But it's really hard to do this because you start ranking these things and you feel like these things are really important to you, but then you start ranking it at like 22 or something, and it's like, that sounds really low. It sounds like you don't really value that very much. The other thing that was a little tricky is that there's a significant amount of overlap in some of these terms that you have to kind of think about like what the difference is between them and which one of those you value more than the other. So that was a little bit hard. And then some of them also were kind of interdependent on each other. So that was probably the hardest part for me, was like just kind of deciding which ones like would have to come first for the other ones to kind of fall into place. So all that to say, it was a little bit tricky, but it wasn't that hard if I tried not to think about it too much. So maybe that'll be helpful to you if you're also trying to do this and you feel kind of overwhelmed or intimidated by the idea of ranking values. I have a daily planner that I write in at the end of each day, so I kind of used it in reverse, more as a log, and I'll probably make a video about that at some point, but I decided to write my list in there so I would have a nice record of it, and so I will show it to you now. I decided to consider my top 5 to be my core values, and like I said, this is really hard because some of these other ones I feel like are so important to me, but I do feel like those 5 kind of encompass a lot of the other ones, I guess. The other ones kind of fit into those categories in some way or another. So I can't say I'm too surprised about the ones that made the top, but considering all the other ones and trying to rank them gave me a lot to think about, so I'm really glad I did this project. Thanks so much to Ashley for sharing this cool idea, and once again, you definitely should go check her out. If you guys decide to do this, then I would love to hear what your most important values are, so leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my future content. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.